I have 2 police assaults, 2 domestic assaults, 2 charges for threatening behaviour, and a breach of bail charge. I'm unemployed, and I have borderline personality disorder. Do you judge me? I can guarantee a majority of people in this audience judged me as soon as they heard the word assault. When we read things or hear something, we judge. We never think to try and understand, why is a person acting this way? What led them to be this type of person? Are we judging unfairly? Well, let me tell you why. I remember the day my mother was sectioned for the first time. I was 12 years old. My mother's mental state had crumbled. I remember looking at a completely different person who looked broken. She was impulsive, aggressive, and chaotic. My mother had struggled to control her emotions from the day I was born. Yet, she wasn't diagnosed until her late 30s. My mother died, aged 45. And I wonder, how could nobody have noticed for such a long time that she needed help? How did nobody pick up on this? Why did it have to come to a point where she was attempting suicides, self-harming, and hallucinating before she was finally sectioned and diagnosed? I think because she was judged unfairly. She was from a scheme. She'd been up at court many times. She'd been in many fights. She fitted the social stereotype of her background. Instead of trying to look beyond that background, beyond the way she talked, beyond the aggression, nobody looked further than that and considered the why. For my mother, the why was schizophrenia, bipolar, and PTSD. And I wonder, how could nobody have noticed that her behavior was not rational? So I'll ask you again, was my mother judged unfairly? So I'm going to tell you more about me. As I sat there in a cold, closed-in cell, looking around, asking myself, how did I get here again? I had this moment. A moment in my head where I remember looking in a mirror after a fight, and I remember wiping the blood from my face and telling myself, this was normal. This was life. This is my reality. I started to recognize how far gone I really was, how messed up I must have been for all this time to believe this was normal, this was a life. Why do I always put myself in these situations? I started to think about my whole life and everything that went wrong in it. I started to think about all the bad things I'd done, the people I took for granted, the situations that I constantly got myself in. I felt trapped in my emotions, haunted by my past. Will I ever escape from this life? Or is this life a part of me? I'd done it again. I lost control of my emotions. I let the rage overpower me. I blacked out. I turned violent on my partner, on the police, and on anyone that got in my way. What was my why? What had led me to this point? I have been struggling to cope with mental health issues for years. I tried to get help from doctors, and I was turned away and told that I simply just had anger issues. This meant I felt trapped, isolated, angry, with no one left to turn to. If I had received compassion, time, understanding, my mental health challenges would have been identified a lot earlier. And maybe I wouldn't have took that wrong path and have that list of assault charges. But instead, when I was sitting in that cell, I had one of the most important moments in my life, because it was the moment I realized I had to make a choice. I could keep going down this downward spiral of courts and jail and have no future. Or I could get a grip. I could get help. I could finally face the demons that I tried to drink away. So let me tell you about who I am today. I'm studying to be a social worker. Before I could even begin studying, I had to write to the PVG scheme and absolutely acknowledge my convictions. I had to explain to them why each of the assaults had happened, and that I understand that I did something wrong, which I absolutely did. I had to explain to them why each of the charges had happened and how they linked to my mental health. When I did that, they reviewed it without bias and approved me to start to study. I also volunteer as a young ambassador for the Prince's Trust. I do various events speaking about mental health and how giving someone a chance can change their entire life. A year and a half ago, I couldn't even get a job interview. In the last year, I've had 2 jobs, all thanks to the Prince's Trust. Looking beyond the convictions of my past, understanding my mental health, looking at the potential in me and the difference I wanted to make in the future. So now I'm going to share with you an exercise that I learned throughout therapy. It's a very simple exercise. I still use it to this day. All you'd have to do is sit in a comfortable position with your feet flat on the ground and just listen to all the sounds around you. Don't think about the sounds. Just notice them in your head and move on to the next one. If you notice your mind drifting off to anything stressful you're dealing with, just acknowledge it and bring yourself back to the sounds around you and breathe slowly and deeply throughout. Mental health is a massive issue in our society today. And nobody should be judged or unfairly judged, because mental health, it's very hard to get through mental health, and it takes a lot of time and patience to recover. And you might even have to manage it for the rest of your life. That gets better. It gets easier, and you can get through it. I am a living, breathing example of that. So I ask you today, don't look at me or my mother or anyone and judge us unfairly because of our circumstances. I ask you to stop, think, ask the questions that you need to, and listen. And then make your decisions and your judgments on a fair basis. This way, we can start to show kindness in the world, and we can give help to the people that need it before they lose their way like I did, or before they do the worst, before it's too late. Small changes like this can make the huge difference that is needed in our world today. Thank you.